This video is part 2 of the explanation of when to use estar versus ser. As explained in part 1, the approach that we have is to teach and explain first estar, because estar has only 3 main uses, and therefore everything else is going to be ser. In this video, part 2 of estar and ser, we're going to concentrate on ser and the 5 main uses of ser. When we explain the different uses or the different instances when we use ser, we're going to relate it to questions, so it becomes easier to understand and to identify when ser is going to be used. The first use of ser is going to be for location. Remember that estar was used for location of people or things. Ser is going to be used to indicate the location of events or activities. Therefore, things that happen, things that take place. So when you say when is or where is an activity or an event, in Espanol you're going to say ¿dónde es la fiesta? Or ¿cuándo es la reunión? ¿Cuándo es la clase de español? An event or an activity is something that happens. The meeting, the class. And the answer to that is going to be, of course, with ser. ¿Cuándo es la clase de español? La clase de español es hoy. ¿Dónde es la fiesta? La fiesta es en la casa de María. So the first instance of ser is going to be used to indicate where and when events or activities happen. The second use of ser is going to be to indicate characteristics. Characteristics that answer the question, what is something like? And in Spanish, the question is, ¿cómo es? And then fill in the blank. ¿Cómo es Pedro? ¿Cómo es María? ¿Cómo es tu casa? ¿Cómo es los Estados Unidos? What is something like? In Espanol, we say, ¿cómo es? And the answer to that question is always going to be with ser. ¿Cómo es Pedro? Pedro es muy alto. ¿Cómo es María? María es muy inteligente. ¿Cómo es los Estados Unidos? Los Estados Unidos es muy grande. So ser is going to be used to indicate the characteristic of something. The third use of ser is going to be to identify people. When we say, ¿quién es él? Who is he? ¿Quién es ella? Who is she? Él es mi amigo. Él es Pedro. Él es el doctor. We use ser to identify people. When we identify people, we can also indicate occupation. ¿Quién es ella? Ella es mi amiga. Ella es la mamá de María. We use ser to identify relationships. We can also use ser to indicate occupation or profession. Answering the question, ¿quién es? ¿Quién soy yo? Yo soy Juan. Yo soy el profesor de español. Yo soy amigo de Pedro. Therefore, the third use of ser is going to be to identify people. Likewise, ser is going to be used for a fourth instance when we use ser to identify things. ¿Qué es eso? What is that? ¿Qué es esto? What is this? The answer to that, it is a book. Es un libro. Es una casa. Es una mesa. Es mi mesa. When we identify things, we can also indicate belonging. Who does it belong to? Es mi mesa. Es mi casa. Es un carro. ¿Qué es eso? Es un carro. Es el carro de Pedro. It's Pedro's car. In Spanish, we don't have the apostrophe S, so we have to say it's the car of Pedro. Es el carro de Pedro. And that can also become a question. ¿De quién es ese carro? Of whom is that car? ¿De quién es ese carro? ¿De quién es esa casa? Whose house is that? Of whom is that house? So ser is going to be also used to identify things. When we identify things, we can also indicate belonging. The fifth instance when we're going to use ser is going to be for something called passive voice, and that's a little more advanced. But passive voice is the opposite of active voice. Active voice is when we say something in English or in Spanish and our main interest or focus is in who executes the action. And I'm just going to give you an example. If you say el hombre compra una casa, the man buys a house, sometimes it's not important who executes the action but the action itself, and then we switch it and we say la casa es comprada, the house is bought. And you could say por el hombre, but since we switched it to passive, sometimes it doesn't matter who did it. Okay, we'll do it in past tense. And you could say la casa es comprada, and if we bring it to past tense, la casa fue comprada ayer. The house was bought yesterday. Who bought the house? It doesn't matter. In passive voice, it doesn't matter. In any case, we use ser with something called the past participle, which is the ado, ido ending form of the verb. So those are going to be the 5 instances when we use ser. Again, this is kind of like for your information. It explains why why we're going to be doing it, why you're going to see ser versus estar in different instances, but you don't start from the rule. You're going to learn it by application and conversation. The approach that we have with Cortez method, the approach that we teach, we will explain what's happening so that you understand, but then you're going to just be doing and applying it directly on exercises so it becomes more intuitive. So if you're interested in more information about Cortez method, how our system works, our books, our methodology, or instructors that may be available for classes for you, go to our website, cortezmethod.com, or you can follow us in Instagram, or you can also follow us in YouTube. If you have any questions, of course, always write them down. And wherever you see the video, I'll be more than happy to answer questions and to create videos like this for you. Muchas gracias. And I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.